All right, how you doing this week? It is Scott Penfold here with you for another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. And this week I'm going to be speaking with the one and only Lawrence Loz Taylor, frontman for British metalcore band While She Sleeps. Now, these guys have been around since 2006, formed in Sheffield, England, and the band is made up of vocalist Lawrence, or Loz as he's known, guitarists Sean Long and Matt Welsh, bassist Aaran McKenzie, and drummer Adam Savage. The band have dropped 3 EPs and as well as 5 studio albums, the latest one being Sleeps Society, which dropped back on April 16th and is available now. And it's one of those rare situations where this band has been able to maintain their same lineup since their formation, with Loz being the only bandmate who's not an original member, but he still appeared on every single release apart from the band's first 2 EPs. I love this band. Call them metalcore if you want. Call them whatever. They're a great band and they sound great live. And Loz, thanks so much for joining me on the Loaded Radio podcast this week, man.
Not at all, man. Not at all. Likewise.
The new album, Sleep Society, first off, it was produced by Carl Brown.
Yeah.
Is Carl someone that we would have heard of before? Like, where do you know Carl from?
Carl is a guy who lives quite locally to Sheffield, and a few sort of... He just lives nearby Sheffield, and he's a great guy. He did some work with Colin Richardson originally, who's worked with bands like Slipknot and Machine Head, As I Lay Dying. So yeah, he's worked on a lot of metal records, and we met him primarily because back in the day we were like solely a metalcore sort of band.
Yes.
So I think that's how that relationship grew. He's worked on a lot of our records, and he's such a great producer, you know. I think that, you know, a lot of the time goes sort of unnoticed by people who are generally listening to a band, but really they're so important. They turn into like a sixth member for us. And yeah, he's worked on all our records. Amazing guy, amazing producer, and yeah, we love him very much. So it's great to have him on board. Now,
the name Sleep Society, the name of the new album, where does that come from? Obviously, with the reference to your name, obviously, or maybe it doesn't. But where does the name come from?
Basically, you know, the way that we wanted to put this record out is by letting our fan base know that, sort of dropping the smoke and mirrors and letting our fan base know where things are at with While She Sleeps and the music industry. So when we released the single Sleep Society, the forefront of that was a press conference that, you know, allowed us to highlight some of the things that we think needed changing. And one of the things that we put to our fan base in terms of moving forward is about making this more sustainable. I think streaming platforms and just the way that we digest our music in general are sort of devaluing a lot of music. And it's meaning that artists are having to really sort of churn it out. So we just wanted to address a few things with that. And we wanted to basically create a community where our fan base can come together with a subscription-based platform and just help us make it more sustainable. And, you know, in return, they get like tons and tons of stuff that we put in there. So yeah, that was the thinking behind it. We wanted to call it something cool so people, you know, people wanted to get involved, and yeah, Sleep Society ended up being what we went with. It's proven to be an amazing platform, and you know, the community inside that is growing really strong. We're learning a lot from our fan base with that, and the fan base in there are getting a lot more from us than you can give to people over just sort of normal platforms of social media. So yeah, it's really interesting to have, and it's turning into a very, very positive thing for While She Sleeps. I think another reason we wanted to sort of build this and use it as a platform at the forefront of our campaign. A lot of people use sort of Patreon as a bit of a side hustle, and I think that something like Patreon can really, like I say, really help sustain a band. Whether that's an established band or whether that's an up and coming band, you know, I think that it can be a really good model in terms of moving forward for sort of any size artist. So yeah, that was sort of the reasoning behind it. Don't really know how Sleep Society came about. I think it just really made sense to us to call it that, and with us wanting to create such a strong community, it sort of really lent itself to the message that we were trying to push with that.
Yeah, no, I was looking, there's some pretty cool things you can get here. I mean, but is there anything like really big and massive somebody can get through this thing, like a chance to get on stage with a band or anything?
Yeah, I mean, that's something obviously we've been thinking about, and obviously COVID coming round has really stopped that. But we've got plans to do all those sorts of things. Like one of the things that we have that we've ran during this album cycle is people being able to send in their vocals and get on the record.
Oh, cool.
And it's just like really like cool things like that. Like we might get to a section and sort of ask the question, do you want to hear it go sort of more melodic here, or do you want it to go even heavier? And people can have like a kind of an interactive say on sort of what's happening, you know, even during the songwriting process. And we're looking to do things like sort of private society shows for the people that are, you know, it's just showing our gratitude to the core fan base that are digging a bit deeper and showing the band a bit extra for our efforts, kind of thing. And that relationship's really turning into a strong one. So yeah, it's really cool.
Now digging back into the actual album, and just some of the tracks I've heard. First off, "Nervous" features Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro. How did that involvement come about? And tell me about the song as well.
So basically, this song is, you know, for us, a bit of a call to arms in terms of like, we wanting people to open up about sort of their mental health and well-being. Sean Long majoritively wrote this song, and he at the time that he wrote the song, I feel like he really needed to write it, and I feel like that's why the song for us is so special. It really came together quickly, and everyone in the band stood by the message and really felt strongly about this. And then as sort of time went on into obviously the demo was written sort of pandemic, if you like. And I think as time's gone on and people are more isolated than they ever have been, we've really felt the need to sort of move forward and push this message and sort of break down the walls, if you like, of any stigmas that the sort of mental health might have, and just open people up to feeling free to talk about it, you know. And I think that, you know, over the years, While She Sleeps has built a platform for ourselves to be able to, you know, use it for good and say things that we think really matter and things that are important. I think this is definitely one of those songs for us. So yeah, it's been incredible, even just through releasing it out a few weeks back as a single, you know, and even just from me personally putting that song out with the message and the connotations that are attached. You know, it's opened up conversations with my partner and my family and friends that, you know, might not have necessarily happened if it wasn't for us releasing the song in this way. So it's been really awesome and a really positive step for us. And something that I feel like members of the band have gone through at times, that, you know, if we can say something that'll help someone, people in a certain way, you know, it's only a good thing. So that was sort of the nutshell of releasing the song and why we wanted to touch that subject. As well as that, losing a sort of close friend of mine to suicide during the first lockdown really, you know, really sort of meant that a lot of the messages going out with this record are really ones that we sort of hold close to our heart and you know, want people to understand that communication is key and not feeling like they're alone in, you know, in this crazy world sometimes. So yeah, that's a few of the reasons of why we sort of released a song in this way. And on a slightly happier note, we were on tour with a band called Bullet for My Valentine.
Oh, great band.
They had a lighting guy that was out with them, and we had a few beers one night and started talking to him, and he said, well, I work with Biffy Clyro. And we were like, wow, that's great. He said, you do realize they're sort of fans of your band. They've been listening to your stuff and they're really into it. And we were like, no, we're like, fuck off, you know, being youngsters. But no, it was really nice to find out. And, you know, being a young band and Biffy Clyro being, you know, a successful band, it was really cool to hear. So thinking about people that we could get involved in this record and sort of Simon Neil's voice, we thought would lend itself so well to Nervous as a track, with it being sort of one of the most anthemic songs that we've ever written as a band. We just felt like Simon Neil would sound great. So we just sort of extended an ask, and he sort of came back to us and confirmed that yeah, he likes the band and he's been listening into our stuff for a while. So it was great to finally connect with Simon and get him on the song. And I think everything that he put into the song, like even down to sort of the positive energy, like through working with him, was amazing. He really stands by the message of the song. And yeah, did a great job on it vocally, and was so great to work with. So yeah, it was amazing.
And there's also another song, No Defeat for the Brave, featuring Derek Whibley from Sum 41. How about that song as well? How did Derek get involved?
Basically a similar thing. We sort of extended an ask to him, and we've been fans at times of Sum 41 as youngsters, and they were a huge inspiration for us at times. I remember skateboarding down to my local record shop and picking up All Killer No Filler. Nice. And then about a year later realizing how much of an influential record it was on sort of punk rock in the UK and across the world. Those songs are still played in rock clubs now. So yeah, that was another thing. We just extended an ask and said we were big fans and loved Sum 41, and if he was up for it, could we send a demo out? And he came back. He'd heard of the band, and he was stoked to be playing Slam Dunk Festival in the UK and us being on the lineup, so he could sort of hang out and watch us play. So that was great. And so we sort of sent him over the song, and at the time he was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this work. I'm having a newborn child soon. And, we were just kind of like, no pressure. Just if you do get the time, like, let us know and we can work on it together. And then sort of a month and a half later, he came back and said, guys, I'm, really, really like vibing off the demo and would love to get involved if the opportunity is still there. So yeah, he did an amazing job. What's funny about that song is that it's almost like before we even knew Derek was going to be a part of the song, like the verses in that tune sound very punk rock and almost lend themselves to Sum 41 sound anyway. So when Derek put his vocals down on top, it was just, it just sounded like it was meant to fit the whole time, which was really strange. But yeah, it worked out really well, and we're stoked to have both of the guys guests on our record. I think what makes the guests interesting is they're not really from our world. They're from punk rock and rock worlds, and we're more of a sort of metalcore band. So I think that's what makes it really interesting and really fun. I don't think people kind of expect it, if you like, which is great.
Another song that really, one that really stood out for me, and one that I really, really like is the song "You Are All You Need." Tell me about that one.
I think "You Are All You Need" is probably like one of my favorite songs off the record, and I think the message in that song is really strong. It's sort of like stop looking sort of to others for sort of affirmation or looking to others to be accepted. It's about harnessing what you have and what you have that's different and what makes you you. It's very easy, I think, in this day and age to sort of wake up staring at Instagram and go to bed staring at Instagram and how other people live their lives. And with this song, we just wanted to bring it to the forefront of like, you are all you need, you have the power to get out there and sort of do the things you want to do. And to sort of not live by anyone else's expectations, I guess. So yeah, that was that. And the sort of Sean Long's lead guitar in the breakdown section towards the back end, like, is still blowing my mind now. I could literally listen to that all day. And it was the same in the studio when we were recording the song. It's just a face melter, and I love it. But yeah, it's a very, very While She Sleeps song. It's very sort of powerful, very energetic. And it's got all the elements in there that makes a While She Sleeps song. So if anybody hasn't heard the band is listening in, check that song out.
Yeah, it's a great representative song for sure, man. And I'm talking about the album and some of the songs. It seems to almost be like a thematic sort of an album. Would you say it was purposely meant that way, that it's really meant to encapsulate that sort of theme?
I wouldn't say that we necessarily set out to make a record that sort of wholly felt like that. Right. I think naturally the sort of things that we talk about through other records and the lyrical content in there is always one of community and unity and sort of, just sort of positive, being positive and having a positive outcome. We might have something that sounds quite disgusting and quite heavy and quite vicious at times, but I think the overall thing that we want to put across there is sort of a positive one. So for us, it's about using our music to celebrate the fact that sometimes the world can feel like a bit of a fucked up place, and the only real option we have with that is to sort of celebrate that fact and know that we're not alone in it. And so I think we've always had those sort of themes running through running through our albums. I do agree with you. This record feels like almost like a call to arms with some of the topics there and the things that we're saying, Sure. But I think for us as a band, those messages have always been in there. But yeah, I think it's great that this record feels like it highlights that a bit more. And feel like the pandemic has maybe brought that out of us in a way. It's very hard for people. People are finding it very, very difficult to get through the pandemic and lockdown and being more isolated than they have been in the past. So I think there was another sort of branch to this where we were feeling like if it can help people in that way, especially people that already know about the band that are listening in, then it can only be a good thing.
Now, you guys have actually had the same lineup since you joined in 2006. Now, today, that's kind of unheard of. How have you guys been able to do that?
Yeah, I think the way that we have been able to do that is, like you say, like through. I think it leans itself to the topics that we sing about in our music. You're not supposed to be sort of brought into this world and know how to deal with things. I think it's fine not to know, not to know the path that you're on. And I think it's fine not to know how to feel or how to react in certain situations. And for us, it's all part of the learning process. And I think, it is very, very tough, I think, to find a group of people that are as committed as you are, especially in the early days of trying to find a band. Sure. I think that While She Sleeps is very, very lucky to have people to have the band members that don't let anything really deter us. We've been through so much. We've fallen out, so much, and we've had alcoholism involved, and like drink and drugs and the whole, all of it. And I think it just comes down to us as, trying to grow with the things that sort of have torn us apart at times and sort of not letting it defeat us. I think that's another thing, that the overall message of While She Sleeps is sort of not letting the negative defeat you, and always trying to come out of a bad situation with the learning part of it. And I think that's what we've done over the years. And I think that luckily it's made our bond stronger. Yeah. But yeah, I do agree with you. You see so many bands that are still bands, but the lineups have changed so much. Exactly. But with us, like you say, since 2008, 2009, we've been the same group of dudes. And I think that's the way that chemistry works. We all know sort of what we're bringing to the band now. And we all kind of feel like without individual members, the sort of machine wouldn't run as it does. So yeah, it's been a crazy ride for sure, but we're still here and we're still together doing it. And I think that's the hugely important part of it.
Do you still feel that people are still trying to figure out what your sound is? I mean, do you rely heavily on the metalcore label, or do you just like being whatever you are? Because I find that some people are still trying to classify your band. Yeah,
I think people definitely are trying to classify our band. I think initially, 100% we came together through the love of metalcore, early 2000s metalcore, bands like Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying, Darkest Hour, Unearth, sort of the original lineups of metalcore band. And I think for a while, metalcore it felt like a bit of a dirty word, like emo kind of turned into a bit of a dirty word for a while, I was involved in that whole emo scene and yeah, it kind of, when it first came around, it was like really cool to be involved. And then for some reason it was kind of like, ooh, emo,
Yeah.
I think for a while it just got oversaturated. It felt like bands were putting themselves through the metalcore machine, sort of verse, chorus, clean vocal, screaming, singing. And I think, we are a metalcore band, and we love being a metalcore band, but also we don't want to be sort of just confined to that sort of that sound. We've always wanted to push ourselves and not write records that sound the same every time. Step outside of our comfort zone, try new things. And I think for a while, you just don't know how the fan base, you have to nurture the fan base that you're growing when you're younger. And I feel like since the You Are We record, we really learned that we have a sort of a devoted fan base that really stand behind us, and they sit and digest the messages that we deliver and always respond in a positive way. And I feel like that really gave us the confidence then to sort of move outside of just metalcore and experiment a little bit more. And I think, hopefully that makes it more interesting for everybody. It makes it more interesting for us in the studio. Hopefully it keeps our fan base guessing as to what's going to come next. And just keeps us current and interesting, I hope. So I think, we're a metalcore band. We love metalcore. That was our initial love. That's how we came together. That's what our common influences are. But yeah, we all like so much different music. So I think now it's about bringing all of that to the table, not just metalcore, and just sort of experimenting a bit more and staying exciting.
Yeah, and I think that it also reminds me of Bring Me the Horizon, a band that you guys toured with before. You guys, of course, being from Sheffield, I'm sure you get a lot of comparison to. What's the relationship between the two bands?
The relationship's good, man. Yeah, we've toured with those guys a lot. I think that they, Bring Me the Horizon paved the way for a lot of bands in our world to, initially they paved the way for bands to not have to look like a bearded, hairy dude to play death metal. There was another style that could go along with this, and they got a lot of stick for that, but also a lot of press coverage and interest. And I think that, they've done amazing things through their career, and I think that, like you say, they're a perfect example of not really giving a fuck and just kind of trying to play the music that they want to play.
Yeah.
And I think credit to them, they've changed their sound so much, and they still have a huge fan base, and they're still very interesting to sort of keep on what's going on in their camp and what they're going to come up with next. And they're a very exciting band. So yeah, I think you're right. I think they've kind of paved the way for bands to sort of experiment a bit more and not just be a metal band. And I think that's kind of just the way that music is now as well. Like, there's so many genre clashes happening. Like trap music's huge, and like people are starting to look like gothic sort of trap artists now. And there's sort of genre clashes all over the place. So, it's interesting for us to have a bit of that involved in our writing and recording. And yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it makes for interesting music and new genres.
That's perfect, Loz. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today on the broadcast, man. Really, really do appreciate it. Can't wait to see you guys on the road when you can finally get out there again.
Yeah, definitely, bro. Appreciate that.
All the best to you, Loz. Take care, pal.
You too. Stay safe.
And there you go. There is Lawrence Loz Taylor, frontman for a British metalcore band While She Sleeps. Don't forget the new album Sleeps Society is out right now. And if you want to become a member of the Sleeps Society, just go to whileshesleeps.com. You can sign up there and get in on that action. It sounds like there's going to be a ton of great stuff on there. But again, I'm Scott Penfold, and just to let you know on what's going to be coming up on the next few weeks right here on the Loaded Radio podcast. Loaded Radio's Johnny Rude is going to be joining me for a segment moving forward, just to keep you updated with everything going on in hard rock and metal. But when it comes to interviews, plenty big names coming up right now. Like, what do we got in the books? We got Cryptosis, we've got Based, Atreyu, Wednesday 13, a lot of great artists that we are currently booking in for the weeks ahead right here on the Loaded Radio podcast. So by all means, keep checking back every week for new episodes. And you get them on Spotify if you like, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast, that's where you're going to find our podcast as well. The website, loadedradio.com. Yeah, by the way, don't forget to go to loadedradio.com too, because, well, that's updated constantly with all your hard rock and metal news daily. Like, seriously, it is constantly updated just to keep you up to date with everything going on in hard rock and metal. Of course, tons more there too, like the radio station, Loaded Radio, there for you, broadcasting live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of nothing but your favorite hard rock and metal. We're all on there all the time doing our shows and stuff. And the Loaded Radio FM show is available if you want to hear it on your local FM rock station. Let them know. Let us know. Hey, email us through the website, loadedradio.com, of course. All right, that's going to do it for me. We'll talk to you again next week right here on the Loaded Radio podcast.
Loaded Radio.